At 76, Mr. Thon believed that showing up was love. After retiring from his government job, he had all the time in the world, and he spent most of it visiting his children and grandchildren. Every morning, he left his apartment with a bag of homegrown mangoes or homemade pickles and rode the bus across the city, sometimes to his son's house, sometimes to his daughter's. He knocked on their doors unannounced, smiled warmly, and stayed for hours. He didn't notice the tension at first. To him, it was natural. Family should always be welcome. He had been raised in a time when generations lived under one roof and privacy was a luxury, not a necessity. But modern life, as he was slowly beginning to see, played by different rules. The signs were subtle. His daughter, Lynn, would answer the door with a distracted smile, phone still pressed to her ear, eyes glancing back into the house. "Hi, Dad. Just give me a moment." His grandson barely looked up from his tablet. His son, Min, had started offering excuses. Dad, today's not great. Mai's got meetings. The kids have homework." Thon brushed it off. They were busy. That's all. But one afternoon, as he sat in his son's living room, drinking tea alone while everyone bustled around him, he overheard a hushed conversation behind the kitchen door. "He's always here," Min whispered to his wife. "Every other day. I can't breathe. We don't even get to talk in private anymore." Van sat still. His hands, holding the teacup, didn't move. He felt like a guest who had overstayed his welcome, but no one had ever told him. That night, back in his apartment, the silence pressed down on him harder than ever. He wasn't angry, just confused. Wasn't love supposed to mean being present? Wasn't family supposed to be open doors and shared time? The next day he didn't visit, or the day after that. A week passed. No one called. And in that quiet, Than began to think deeply, not just about himself, but about the unspoken expectations of growing older. He remembered something his friend Mr. Huang had said at their last chess game. "You have to learn how to disappear sometimes. Let them miss you. Otherwise you become furniture." At the time, he had laughed. Now it stung with truth. So Than sat down with a notebook and began listing what he'd never been taught. What no one tells elders when they retire: slow down and start showing up more. And at the top of the list he wrote, the hidden risks of visiting too much. Risk number 1, becoming a burden without knowing it. Van had never considered that his presence, even with good intentions, might feel like pressure. His visits disrupted routines. His stories, once exciting, had become predictable. Even his gifts of food meant someone had to find space in the fridge or say polite thanks. He realized people, even your own children, need breathing room. Not because they don't love you, but because their lives are full. By showing up constantly, he might have unknowingly added stress instead of comfort. Risk number 2, losing self-worth through overdependence. He had made his children the center of his days. When he wasn't visiting, he was thinking about visiting. He didn't take classes, join groups, or make plans that didn't involve them. What if, instead, he'd taken more time for himself? He thought about the painting set he'd bought 3 years ago and never opened, about the book club at the library he passed every week. He realized that being needed felt good, but being independent felt even better. Risk number 3, unbalancing the relationship. Van had believed that since he was the parent, it was his right to drop by. But with age, the dynamic shifts. Adult children become caregivers, planners, protectors of time and energy. By showing up constantly, he was asking for attention without invitation. He hadn't noticed how it pulled his children into roles they didn't ask for. Entertainers, caretakers, conflict avoiders. He didn't want that. He wanted to be their father, not their chore. Risk number 4, missing the beauty of solitude. At first, being alone had felt like a punishment. But now, as he spent quiet mornings reading, tending to his plants, and cooking for himself, he found something unexpected: peace. Solitude was not loneliness when it was chosen. In silence, he could hear himself again. He began journaling, writing letters he never sent. He found a kind of joy in mastering small things, perfecting a soup recipe, finishing a puzzle, fixing a broken fan. The time he used to fill with visits now belonged to him. Risk number 5, preventing children from building their own family identity. Van had raised Min and Lynn to be strong, independent people. Now he saw that by being present too often, he'd unconsciously kept them from fully stepping into their own family roles. His son needed to be the head of his household, not a boy reacting to his father's presence. By stepping back, Than wasn't abandoning them. He was giving them space to grow. One Sunday afternoon, 2 weeks after his last visit, Min called. "Dad, you haven't been by. Are you okay?" "I'm good," Than said, "just taking some time for myself." "Oh," Min paused. "Well, we miss you. I made that soup you like. Come by next weekend?" It wasn't guilt or duty in his son's voice. It was genuine warmth. And for the first time in a long time, Than felt truly welcome. That weekend, he brought just himself. No fruit, no jars, no expectations. They sat together, not as father demanding attention, but as family choosing connection. As the weeks passed, Than visited less but called more. He started attending Tai Chi in the park. He joined a retired men's reading group. He painted small canvases and mailed one to Lynn with a note. "I thought of you when I made this." She called crying. "I didn't realize how much I missed you until you weren't always here," she said. Than smiled. Sometimes he thought the best way to love your family is to let them breathe. To show up less so your presence means more. To live your own life fully so you're not borrowing theirs. Old age wasn't about being seen all the time. It was about knowing when to step back, quietly, gently, and letting your absence be as comforting as your presence once was.